Drive Energy Live US Open preview. Scottie Scheffler, of course, the favorite as always, boosted on the Bet365 app, only to a whopping plus 400 to win this event. We're going to preview it all for you here. We've got a weather report from Sergeant Lemons, Mitchell over here with his great shirt. Once again, if you're watching us on Twitter or watching us on TikTok Live or whatever you're watching us on, make sure to tune into our YouTube, subscribe, give us a thumbs up on that. Big Drive Energy Golf on YouTube. We're going to talk about the U.S. Open at Pinehurst. We discussed with Mark Hubbard kind of what it's playing like, where he's practicing. You can check that interview out on our YouTube as well from Monday. Great chance to talk to him. Just an awesome dude. So make sure you check out that interview if you have not yet. But we've got the U.S. Open preview for you. We're going to give you our picks, weather report, our favorite pairings, any and all information you want to see from Pinehurst this weekend. We will have it for you now. All right, let's tee it up. What's up, bruv?
What's up, bruv?
I've been watching The Gentleman a lot. And so
The Gentleman?
Dude, Netflix show. It's phenomenal. Eight episodes. You can bang it out quick, and it's well worth the watch.
Okay. Have you watched Tires yet? The Shane Gillis TV show?
Yes, I did watch Tires.
Shit was absolutely hilarious. I just want to say vibes are high currently. It's US Open week. I'm fucking stoked. Like, is there anything better than just knowing you have something to watch, like from when you wake up till you go to sleep for the next 4 days?
No, absolutely not. I am going to be single dadding it all day tomorrow, or not all day tomorrow, but for most of the morning tomorrow. So I'm going to wake up 5:30, probably my huge, and turn on the TV and get it on right off the hop. And my kid can do whatever he wants in front in the area. I'll pen him into the living room, and then I'm going to be on the couch watching golf all day.
Your kid is going to be wreaking havoc in that house, and you're just going to be glued to the television the entire time.
I mean, it's US Open week. He was born during British Open Championship week, and that's all we did. We sat on the couch, watched TV, so why not continue the same process? I mean, it's a process that he's used to, so we got to keep things the same.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the one time where, I mean, obviously East Coast time is not great either way because you're just watching sports later, but you get the benefit of waking up. Like, I think first tee time is like 7 a.m. Eastern, so there's legitimately going to be golf on before you even wake up. So you're just going to have to watch it all the way through. Actually, so speaking of watching it, let's get into the coverage situation right off the hop, because it has some people, whatever they do is going to piss people off, but some people are extra pissed because there is a segment on Friday, I want to say, that's strictly on Peacock that you have to legitimately buy the stream. You can't watch it. It's not on actual network television. So I think a lot of people are pissed off about that. But Spencer, do you have the coverage schedule in front of you?
I do. So coverage info here for those of you wanting to watch the US Open, which I don't know what else there is to watch this weekend. I mean, NBA Finals, yeah, sure, it's already over. Celtics in 4. Luka's looks like a 70-year-old man. Stanley Cup final should be electric, hopefully going back to Edmonton, but we're more worried about golf here. US Open schedule, all these times are Eastern. So starting tomorrow, Thursday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. is on USA. So standard USA channel. I don't know what streaming service you have, but head over to USA for it tomorrow up until 5 p.m. Eastern, and then 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern strictly on Peacock. I have kept Peacock all these, like I have it in a withdraw from an account I don't ever really touch and use. I think it's like $5 a month. So well worth it for this weekend, even if you can probably, easy way to game the system on stuff like this is just sign up for a free trial of Peacock for a week. Get it for the whole week. Bada boom, bada bing. You're watching the US Open, the best tournament in golf right behind the Masters. Some people are pissed though on one of this tweet with the schedule, the TV schedule. First tweet reply, one of the 5,763 reasons why the U.S. Open is the 4th best major. That guy's fucking P-par golfer, Phillip. Fucking get your pants out of your ass, Philip. All right. Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern to 1 p.m. Peacock, 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. NBC, and then the last hour, 7 to 8 on Peacock. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on USA. So starting it off on USA, and then the majority of the coverage from 12 Eastern to 8 p.m. will be on NBC. And then kind of the same schedule for Sunday, starts a little earlier, 9 a.m. Eastern time to 12 on USA, and then noon to 8 p.m. on NBC. So that's a streaming schedule. Make sure you get your Peacock, spread your wings so you can fly. And
Hey, by the way, let's mention too our schedule for this next couple episodes, because we are changing it up a little bit. So we're actually going to do a Friday show after the Golf Friday. So it'll kind of be a recap of the first 2 days, and then we'll make weekend predictions. And then it will be back to regularly scheduled programming for us on Monday. We're going to do a show that's going to be the full recap, since it is Father's Day on Sunday. And we got to give props to our boy Spudsy here. First Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, buds.
thanks, bro.
You feel like you have that dad strength? You feel like
In
you've
my
gotten
left
stronger
arm.
since you
In my left arm, because that's where I hold him all the time. My right arm is getting weak.
Dude, he is a thick baby, by the way. Like he is.
Dude, I've gone to the
is
2-arm interlock hold, just like perching him up, because that's all
When's
I
it
got.
going to get to the point when you're like, I can't keep picking this dude up?
Oh, when he's like 7. I just enjoy it.
You better hit the upper body then, because you're going to need it.
Bro, I've been slapping at the gym.
Okay, whatever you say, bro. You're looking huge, looking ripped. Compliments to you. So let's get into the golf course a little bit, because
Wait,
this is
let's just
actually.
finish our schedule. So let's say time.
Oh,
So today, obviously, we're live right now. Welcome. Hello. But we're going to have a show at 6 p.m. Eastern time on Friday. A little halfway glizzy at the turn show, talking about the preview of the weekend of the U.S. Open, also what we saw for the first 2 days. And then Monday, we will be live at 4:30 Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Mountain Time on Monday, recapping the entire U.S. Open, crowning Bryson DeChambeau the next U.S. Open champion, and whatever else we're going to do on Monday. So there's a little teaser for you for one of my picks.
wait, real quick. What time are we recording again on Friday?
6 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, I need to put that in my schedule.
Yeah,
So
put
I
that.
do have a bit of a conundrum, because we are going to be at the beach on Saturday. So I am going to have to figure out how to stream the US Open on the beach.
Your phone should work out there, right? You should have good service.
Yeah, the service isn't terrible, but I might have to get like a hotspot. I'm definitely gonna have to bring out an umbrella. I should just go all the way. I don't know how. I guess it wouldn't work, but maybe I can bring an iPad. Maybe I should do that and then set up like a Wi-Fi hotspot. I already got my girlfriend charging the portable charger that we've got to make sure I'm gassed up, because it's going to be, I mean, kind of best of both worlds. Like you're hanging out at the beach, but I can't miss the US Open. Like that's just
Yeah.
flat out not happening on moving day, nonetheless.
No, absolutely. You got to be locked into this U.S. Open. Let's talk about the golf course. Pinehurst #2. I sent you that picture from. It's always funny when we look at, because every single golf tournament we preview and talk about all week on the PGA Tour. LIV is not quite there yet, but definitely PGA Tour events is you kind of have an idea of the guys that play well here, the guys that are comfortable here. And that's not necessarily always the case in majors, because they're spread so far. I mean, the Masters is obvious, but the other 3 majors, it's a cycle rotation of different courses. Sometimes, like last year, the U.S. Open at LACC was just a spot where nobody had ever been, so we had no idea. But looking at the 2014 leaderboard from Pinehurst #2, seeing Martin Keimer win that is like a little blast from the past. It's always fun to go back in the majors and see who won at this spot last time. We had for the PGA Championship, Rory had won there last time, but Martin Keimer won at Pinehurst. And not only did he win, I believe he was 9 under for the 4 days, which is like, kind of an impressive number. But then you look at the rest of everybody else who was,
Yeah,
I
he
think
won by 8 shots.
Yeah, I think the closest second place guy was at 1 under. So
The closest second place guy that is usually the closest guy to the leader. So you were
yeah, absolutely,
correct.
absolutely.
Well, so Keegan Bradley actually played really well here 10 years ago. And one of the stats, I'm just sidetracked because I'm thinking about Keegan Bradley. I think one of the most telling stats this week, somebody looked into apex, highest apex on the PGA Tour for launch angle and um, for overall height of your general golf shot, because that's a stat that they keep. Apparently they average out everybody's highest apexes and who hits it the highest. And I bet you can guess, who do you think hits it the highest of anybody out there?
Bryson.
Yes. And in all honesty, what's crazy is Keegan Bradley's like second on that list.
Do you have that
And
list? Because fucking
God,
search that out, because I had that list and I was
I
like
thought
working off of that a little bit, but it was super interesting to see, because this is a course where, you know, we've seen, if you've been on Twitter and follow golf Twitter, you've seen all the videos of guys dropping balls and them going 40 yards off the green, the insane spots if you miss the wrong part of the green. But this course is going to benefit guys that hit the ball higher and are able, I mean, it's a US Open, so you're not going to be able to really rip the ball back essentially, but you have a much smaller portion of the green. Even if it's not where the flag's at, you have a small portion of the green that you can hit it to and be in an okay spot. Otherwise, you're going to be chipping, a lot of bump and runs. I saw Collin Morikawa was like exclusively using hybrid to chip and practice with. And I think all of the guys are going to be like that this week, at least in the practice rounds. You know, when they get on the course, we'll see. But
no. Well, so didn't you give me shit about chipping with like a 3-wood? I think
every time you pull that out of the bag, I'm going to give you shit. I'm not saying it's not the right play. It's just an old man play.
See, I don't think it's an old man play. Shout out our boy Eric Hallberg, frequent guest on this show. We need to get him back on again soon, but he showed me that play like 6 or 7 years ago. He uses it all the time, 3-wood around the green in the closely mown areas. And for you people listening right now, if you struggle in those tightly mown areas around the green and you're always, you know, sticking your wedge in the ground or blading it across the green, get that hybrid out, get that 3-wood out. I don't think it's kind of like a party trick. Like when I was playing with a group of higher handicappers a couple weeks ago, this one dude was just struggling mightily and he was pulling out a 60-degree right in front of the green. And I was like, dude, have you ever thought about
that's my move.
Yeah, that is the typical 18 handicap move. So that checks out for you. But he was like 5 yards off the green, had probably 70 feet of green to work with. And he had a 60-degree out trying to basically almost fly it to the hole. And I was like, hey bro, I'm going to show you something really cool. Hey, bruv, get your hybrid out, bruv. So he got out his hybrid and, he was like, holy shit, this is so cool. And I'm like, it's not that crazy of a thought, but now maybe seeing dudes at the US Open actually utilizing this will get more people into this. Like, I honestly, it might save pace of play for the general public. Like, we may see pace of play go down if we just have all the higher handicappers. And obviously there's a time and a place. You can't use it everywhere, but if you're in a fairway area near the green and you have nothing but green to work with, there's no sense in hitting, you know, a high sand wedge or a high lob wedge. So I actually really enjoy the shot. Back to Pinehurst though, because what they're famous for, what the greens are famous for, is they call them upside down cereal bowls. So kind of like I don't know why I just thought of this. I'm not going to say it, but I am going to say it, like Spencer's puffy nipples. They are high in the middle and then they run off on all sides. So, but the funny thing is about them, now I'm flustered just thinking about Spencer's nipples for no reason.
I think my nipples have an issue because I was like, I've cycled so many times in my life between getting pretty fat and then getting back to semi-fit and then really fit and then fat again. And then
your nipples are just so confused about where to be and what to do.
I think holy that's the shit. Problem.
I don't know why that made me
at this point. There's rubber bands.
You got stretch marks on your nipples. Anywho, so the weird thing is about these greens is they do run off around like all sides, but they don't run off super far. So they only run like 5 to 10 feet off of greens. as opposed to, we see these courses where the collection area is 30 yards off the green or whatever. So they are the upside down cereal bowl, puffy nipple type greens, but they're not going to be like super crazy where, a ball almost stays on the green and then it's 30 yards away. Like it's going to be relatively close, but they're going to have so many pins like right near edges of these greens where you're going to see guys, I guess I saw a tweet yesterday, Phil in the practice round, him and Brooks were playing a money game and they kind of had like a similar putt. Brooks lagged it up there to like 3 feet. Phil putted it off the green, just straight up all the way off the green. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that this week. But
are we going to see a 2018 Phil Mickelson re-scenario where he
chasing after
didn't even want to hit it again, so he just fucking plopped it up there?
Dude,
see, look what you've done.
Kylie, Spencer's wife. No, it's definitely genetic. Unfortunately, you've passed it to our son. Sawyer's nipples getting puffy exposed on. I do have the puffy nips too, so I think we can all own it together. It's just hereditary. I need to get the Spanx on. Sometimes my girlfriend's legitimately like, "Your nipples are hanging out." I'm like, what am I supposed to do about my man nipples? Like, you want me to put a bra on to cover mine up? But
Spanx all weekend.
Yeah, Spanx all weekend. I'm gonna have to exhale Sunday afternoon. But what were we just talking about with the golf course?
I asked you if we're gonna have another Phil scenario and talking about the roll off the greens, and it's not far. Just there's a little fucking cliff notes for you.
Well, thank you for updating me. I still watch that clip of Phil doing that, and I'm like, how did he get away with that? Like the ball was clearly moving.
He got disqualified.
No, he didn't.
Or no, it was a 2-stroke penalty.
Yeah, he got a penalty, but he didn't get DQ'd, dude. Like he should have gotten DQ'd for that. Can you imagine just going up and batting your ball around while it's still moving? So I was just shocked by that scenario in general. But Wyndham Clark had a quote earlier this week that had a lot of people, Wyndham Clark back in the headlines, had a lot of people in their feels and calling him a pussy, calling him soft, all of this stuff, because he said the greens were already borderline. And one of our buddies, shout out Jacques out in South Carolina. I think we're going to have him on pretty soon, but he was like, come get your man. This is like bitch behavior. And I'm like, I don't necessarily disagree. But the thing is with Pinehurst is, so it's obviously been televised, but Pinehurst has no rough. Pinehurst has wire grass off the fairways, and they have basically like natural waste bunker type things, but there's no rough out there. So they have to make the greens super firm. The greens are going to be right on the edge. They're going to be firm and fast. And they're going to have to take them there. Like I actually saw a tweet last night of them watering the greens because they're getting so crispy already. So this is actually going to segue me into my weather segment, because it's just going to go to show you like how baked out it's going to get over the weekend.
Well, before we hit the weather segment, let's talk about where we do all our betting with, and that is Bet365. We've got 6 picks for you, as we do every single week, our big bet energy picks. We'll get to those at the end, but use that code ALLCITY when you sign up at Bet365, and you choose between 2 offers. You get a first bet safety net of $1,000. So you could bet $1,000 on Scottie Scheffler this week. It's boosted on the Bet365 app to win. He wins the U.S. Open. You win $4,000 and have $5,000 in your account. Or if you bet $5, you get $150 in bonus bets that you can use for golf. Bonus bets are by far the best used on golf because there's such crazy odds. You want to take shots when you have bonus bets. You don't want to bet even odds, these lame little bets to grow your account by a couple bucks. Like you want a $1 bet to win 50 or 75 or 100. And PGA Tour has been very profitable if you have the right guys this year. So make sure you're heading over to Bet365. Use that code ALLCITY at sign up, and you are getting to choose between those 2 offers. They have a bunch of super boosts. They have early payout offers for the NBA, the NHL. They have early payout offers for the NFL when it comes up this fall. And like I said, every single week they have boosts on golf. I used my 50% profit boost on one of my golfers this week. Usually do it on the lowest guy with the lowest odds. So I got plus 1400 on a certain player that I mentioned earlier, but that guy will be boosted 50%. So they're always have the each way bets, which is what we use every single week because you just get to double your units. You bet 1 unit on the player to win, that doubles. They do it for you. And you also get the player 1 to 3, first 5, first 8, first 10, first 12, first 15. We bet the each ways 1 through 12. So do that with Bet365. Use that code AllCity at sign up. Must be 21 plus and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Also want to tell you about our great friends over at Shady Rays. I've got my Shady Rays on right now. They keep me cool. It's like 95 degrees here. I pretty much don't go outside anymore unless I've got my Shady Rays on. They've got the brand new Green Wolf golf glasses, super comfortable frames, great lenses. You know, I've been playing a lot of overcast afternoon golf lately, and those Green Wolf polarized lenses are incredible. Make the course so much more inviting. You know, when it's dark, it looks scary. The trees look closer, just looks tighter. But when you put the Green Wolves on, it looks a lot more open. You get a lot better view of the golf course, turns some of the brown grass on the courses you're playing to green. Overall, just a great glass. And they're
There's people
offering,
asking, do they make the fairways wider? Do Shady Rays sunglasses make fairways wider?
people are wondering, but you use that code AC35 to make the fairways wider on the golf course with Shady Rays. They are giving us the best offer of the season. That's 35% off polarized glasses using that code AC35. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. All right, it's time. It's time. We're going to head it over to 9 News at 5 with Mitchell Smith, Sergeant Mellons. Sergeant
All
Mellons with
right.
the weather report.
All right, everybody. I'm out here in Pinehurst, North Carolina. It is going to be a scorcher this week. We've got highs of 89 on Thursday. The UV index is going to be through the roof, folks. And then we've got 93 on Friday, 91 Saturday, 91 Sunday. It is going to be hotter than something that I can't say on this podcast. It's going to be hot as fuck out in North Carolina this week for the U.S. Open. That place is going to be baked out. It's going to be insane. It's my favorite term that I like to use for a course like this week is it's going to be so crispy. Like you're borderline going to be hearing the grass crunch under these dudes' feet. They're going to have to keep the greens watered. They're going to have to do everything in their power to keep this thing playable because I think it's going to be right on the edge. But I want your opinion because we talked to Mark Hubbard about it last week. Do you think, so this is not your traditional U.S. Open setup. There's actually no rough. You know, we've got the wired grass in the waste bunkers. Do you prefer this setup to a traditional setup, or what do you think? Because this is actually, so they just announced that Pinehurst, what do they call it? It's going to be the first U.S. Open official anchor site, which means they're hosting it again in 2029 and then 2035, 2041, 2047. So it's going to be here for the next 23 years, which is pretty wild. And it's also wild just to hear the year 2047 because I'm going to be 52 years old at that point. So that's really got me fucked up just even hearing that number.
I can't wait to see what our Big Drive Energy U.S. Open preview looks like in 2047.
I might be a legit weatherman at that point. I may be working for a news station out in fucking Podunk, North Carolina, for all I know. But yeah, so this is going to be this is the first official anchor site for the U.S. Open. So we are going to see more U.S. Opens here more frequently because the last one was 10 years ago. So now we're having 4 in the next 23 years here. Do you like this sort of different setup for the U.S. Open, the toughest test in golf, versus a Winged Foot or a Shinnecock or, you know, places like that are your traditional super thick rough, super narrow fairways, because these fairways are also a little bit wider than your typical U.S. Open.
Yeah, I think this is a great middle ground between the kind of joke that was LACC last year for U.S. Open and those courses like Shinnecock, where I don't, you know, the typical when you hear U.S. Open, you think deep rough, tight fairways where you're hitting a lot of irons off the tees. I think this is going to be a fun test where greens are hard, greens are very firm, there's runoffs everywhere. But with the distance in golf nowadays and how important it is to every single PGA Tour player, the amount of drives that these guys are going to have to hit long enough to get in the right spots makes it a fun test of golf. So is it a US Open test of golf? Maybe. And maybe we need to just transform our minds to what a US Open test is, because now that Pinehurst is going to be that anchor site, and basically it's going to be in 5 years. And then after that, every 6 years, maybe the US Open becomes a place where it's different tests every 6 years. You know, you have Pinehurst every 6 years, and then they find a few other courses where it really goes, like the British Open Championship has a very clear what it is. You know, it's links golf. This is going to give people a chance to see what golf in the United States is really like. And I'm a big fan of courses like a Pinehurst, where you've got obviously the pine trees, you've got the long straw grass, you've got the random bunkers, like a Whistling Straits. Like those are kind of my favorite type of courses. There's, you know, a lot of runoff areas, just like interesting golf, versus you missed the fairway or you're hitting a lot of irons off the tees like the other traditional US Open courses.
Yeah, you're chipping out of the if you hit it in the rough, you're chipping out, shit like that. And yeah, I think you're right, like kind of almost changing the identity of what the US Open is. And like you said, I honestly think that Pinehurst is similar to like a course you could see in Colorado. With like, it reminds me a little bit almost of Colorado Golf Club, a lot less elevation change, obviously at Pinehurst, but just all the pine trees, the straw, things like that, the closely mown areas. Obviously there's rough out at CGC, but it is just a different kind of test. And I wouldn't mind seeing, you know, the US Open go to like the Pacific Northwest. Like actually the US Women's Open next week is at Sahalee, I want to say it's called, up in Washington. So I think, and that's like a super narrow, super high tree line golf course. I think something like that would be really fun to see the men play out as well. But kind of getting away, like you said, from the Northeast, because every US Open site feels like it's either in Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, you know, all these Northeastern sites where like there's so many other great tests of overall golf courses in so many other states, you know. So North Carolina is going to be a great host. Make sure that the cops are all debriefed on what Scottie Scheffler looks like and what all the other stars look like, so we don't have the same PGA Championship situation that we did. But overall, I'm super excited for this golf course. And I actually heard a quote from one of the greenskeepers. I was watching the USGA's press conference for some reason, because I'm just a fucking sicko and I've got the Golf Channel on currently. But the head of the USGA said he talked to one of the greenskeepers and he goes, "This is one of my favorite weeks of the year because everybody gets to root for the golf course. You know, everybody is rooting for the golf course to beat all these guys down. You've got the best players in the world, and par is going to be a great score at a lot of these holes."
Yeah, it's almost like a little bit tougher of a test with a little bit better of a field than it was last week, where a bunch of the guys were fighting. You know, we saw 80s, 86s. I think Shane Lowry shot, or 83s out there. I think this is going to be a great test of golf. And it's even better when you have all of the LIV players coming over. The best, the most talented guy like Sergio getting in at the last minute was just cool for the overall talent level. Let's talk about who dropped out, and that's Jon Rahm. So what do you make of, somebody asked me yesterday, like or I saw on Twitter too, like, what do you make of him going to the US Open site and having, you know, the hurt toe, which it was shown at the LIV Houston event last week where he made a swing, like it's not feeling good. He's wearing a sandal, which he gets a major L for that one. But
can you imagine having like an injury you have to withdraw and the injury requires you to just wear a sandal with a Band-Aid in between your toes? Like that might be the roughest look for golfers in general when we call ourselves athletes, and Jon Rahm is withdrawing from the biggest golf tournament in America because he has a cut between his toes. And also, how the fuck did that happen? Like, does he have some sick twisted fantasy where he likes being hurt and he wants people to like paper cut in between his toes? Because otherwise, how do you get a cut between your toes?
Yeah, it seems like a little like he's not doing yard work or anything. You know that. That's a little bit of an insane injury. But my point when somebody asked me about that was I think that he wanted to make it clear that he wanted to play and was there and why the injury happened. You know, because he hasn't been playing that well. I mean, I think he won one of the live events, like one of the first couple weeks, but he hasn't been playing that well over on the live tour. He's still catching a lot of heat every single week from, you know, everybody that's anti-live and PGA Tour diehards, etc. But I think he wanted to make it very clear that he was going to play, and then wore the sandal, like made it obvious why he wasn't playing, and still did the media because his name means something to him. He's one of the few guys like that went over to live that's really actually I think still cares about that. So he wanted to make it clear that like, hey, I'm here. I wanted to play. This is why I'm not playing. And now some like 25-year-old amateur gets in from he was one of the alternates. So he gets thrown into Pinehurst last minute, but cool story for him. But what do you think about the John Rahm scenario? Like what do you think the reasoning is for him showing up and doing all the stuff that he didn't want to do, media, etc., and then not actually playing in the tournament?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why he showed up, and by the way, I think he showed up and like had one shoe on and one flip flop on with the hurt toe. That is the most outrageous thing I've ever seen in my life. That is like, you don't have to just wear, at that point, put a boot on. Go Big Ben Roethlisberger and just put a whole walking boot on, because you look like a fucking idiot with just one flip flop on and then like one golf shoe on. But I really think the reason he showed up and like wanted to be seen there is because there's so many live golfers that have been forgotten about. Like, when's the last time you heard Tyrrell Hatton's name? When's the last time you heard, some of these other guys that went to live? You're not hearing their names very much. They're kind of the forgotten about guys that went and got their paycheck, and now you don't really think of them in the golf world. So I think he just wanted to show his presence more than anything. Like, yeah, I'm still one of the best golfers in the world, even if I can't play this week. And I think he's still, like you said, he's got that chip on his shoulder from going to live, that he is still one of the greatest players, regardless of what tour he plays on. And I think he was probably going to do everything he could, but he definitely has the look of like he's a little disappointed in what has come of the live tour. And a lot of people, there's been a lot of discourse online about it. Like, is John Rahm, have the most buyer's remorse out of anybody about going to the live tour and taking that check? And I think that's kind of neither here nor there. I think at the end of the day, he's still one of the best players in the world, but these are one of the weeks where the live tour can really, show their muscle and kind of gain a following, is when you see live guys in these big national events playing well. So I think more than anything, like you said, he was doing it for his own name, but he was also doing it to kind of represent live, because he is one of the faces of the live tour at this point.
Absolutely. And he doesn't want his name just continue to be drugged through the mud. Obviously, you'd want to go out and win a U.S. Open like he won the Masters a couple of years ago. But I think overall, we need a good live showing this week. And I think it's a good course for it, and I think we'll get it again. The PGA Championship, obviously, Bryson was one shot off winning it, but it was kind of him and then no one else. So this week,
Yeah.
I look for a lot of live guys. Like Cameron Smith's a good pick this week, I think.
He's great around the greens. That'll be a good pick.
Dustin Johnson's going to shoot 700. Sergio Garcia, who knows? But there's a couple of guys in there. I mean, Brooks is the U.S. Open killer as of right now. So I do think that there's a really good chance for a live W this week, and we'll see that on the card here a little later. But let's talk a little bit more about the golf course. So as we talked about, North Carolina, it's a Don Ross design, but it got renovated in 2011. Corin Crenshaw, same as I believe Flying Horse out here in Colorado is a Donald Ross. Or no, it's a Corin Crenshaw.
Yeah, I was going to say, Corin Crenshaw did design Colorado Golf Club. Maybe that's why I got a similar vibe from it, because yes, that is the same designer.
Yeah, so it's, as you talked about a little bit, 6th widest fairways, 40 yards average. Average score was plus 3.08 in the 2014 U.S. Open. So 10 years ago, like we talked about, Martin Keimer winning at 9 under. Fourth toughest course since 2015. Not just U.S. Open, but in general. Fourth toughest golf course since 2015 that the players play. And Cam Smith, I watched a little video with him and Johnson Wagner yesterday. They did a little walk and talk up the fairways and had him hitting a few shots around the green. And he said these are maybe the best greens he's ever played. Or has played in a long time, both PGA Tour and obviously LIV Tour is probably way down there from some of the fucking dog tracks that they have to play. But he said they're some of the best greens he's ever played. And
real quick, I will say that this golf course gives a lot of the same vibes that like an Australian golf course does. So maybe that's why Cam Smith likes it so much. Maybe we keep an eye out for the Aussies in the field, because this course, if you did not know where it was, I could definitely see it being an Australian golf course.
And then we have the quote from Victor Hovland, which kind of just relates into how to play this golf course. And the quote was, "You got to be really aggressive off the tee so you can be really conservative on the approach shots." And basically, like we talked about earlier, these guys are going to be able to go 100% off the tee. It's not going to be hitting a bunch of 2 irons, 3 irons, 4 irons, etc. Tiger Woods stinger is not going to do any good here, because you got to hit it long off the tee. But then if you're in the right spots off the tee box, it allows you to hit those approach shots in the right area of the green, which I'll emphasize again. The right portion of the green is not even probably where the flag is half the time. It's just the area where you can get the ball to stop and actually have a putt for birdie instead of trying to chip it, trying to pull your 3-wood or hybrid out and get up and down, because par is a great score here, but guys are not going to be scrambling. Like, you're going to have to scramble to win the event, but if you're scrambling all the time, you're putting yourself in a really bad spot at Pinehurst.
Yeah, 100%. You're going to need a guy, and I mean, it goes back to Scottie Scheffler, but you're going to need a guy that really has control of his ball on the approach shots, and it comes down to distance control, and that's obviously where Scottie shines. It feels like he's hitting his number almost every single shot, but like you said, the approach shot, the tee shots are going to be obviously crucial, but they do get a little bit neutralized, I would say, because the approach shots, like it's easier to be conservative. It's just as easy to be conservative with a 7 iron as it is with a pitching wedge. You know what I mean? So a lot of these guys, the longer tee shots are not going to play as much of a factor, in my opinion, because first of all, it's going to play so firm that everybody's going to be getting it out there 300 plus, even the short guys. But then secondly, there's going to be so many holes where you're not even aiming at the flag, where you're aiming at the fat part of the green. Obviously, you need to hold the green, so you need to have a higher shot in there. But ultimately, like Keegan Bradley, we looked at that chart about guys who hit at the highest. Bryson hits at the highest, and Keegan Bradley hits at second highest. I think Keegan's average ball speed is probably like 15 to 20 miles an hour less than Bryson's. So ball speed and apex of flight don't necessarily correlate. So as long as you can hit, a high 5 iron or 6 iron, and with some spin, obviously, it's not going to make that much of a difference if you're hitting 7 iron in or you're hitting pitching wedge in. And obviously distance is always a benefit, but at the end of the day, if everybody's playing conservative, there is probably going to be a handful of holes that the guys have picked out every day that they think they're going to have, a green light on if they put themselves in position off the tee, that they can aim right at the flag and actually try to make birdies. But like you said, there's going to be so many holes this week where par is a good score. So I don't think the distance is necessarily going to be as big, but like it always, distance is always a benefit. But at the end of the day, at this event, I don't think it's as much of a benefit as some other golf courses.
Oh, 100%. And that's how US Open should be. That's why everybody kind of hated last year with Wyndham just driving it everywhere, hitting it far, but not really hitting it in play as much. It kind of dumbed down the prestige of winning US Open, because that usually takes a different type of golf.
Yeah, and I think his average last year was like he was working it like an average of 40 to 50 yards off the tee, which at most US Open golf courses, you don't have 40 or 50 yards between all the trees to even work it, So I think it's definitely going to be a different look this year. But let's talk about another guy too. I mean, this is not necessarily US Open related, but it is a headline. Rory McIlroy has called off his divorce with his now current wife, no longer soon to be ex-wife. So he's called off his divorce. What do you think that means for his play this week?
Maybe he's back into more of a, he's back into a, what's the word? Like a comfortable life state. Maybe this is a good thing for him.
I
Maybe,
was going to say, I mean,
because
but he
some
played
guys,
well when his life was in uproar. He won at Quail Hollow and apparently filed for divorce that day. Like, I think his wife was served divorce papers that Sunday at Quail Hollow, where he went and shot like 61 and won the event. So who knows? This could maybe have a negative effect.
yeah, it's definitely an interesting, because I feel like there's different guys and different personalities on tour that would do well with being the single guy. But maybe Rory, he's trying to keep that image of PGA Tour's favorite player. He's been in all the meetings with PIF and the PGA Tour the last couple of weeks through Zoom, because he's obviously been playing in the golf tournaments. So I think he's trying to uphold that, image, that public image that he's got. And this is a good comment from Greg. His prenup wasn't going to hold up. I saw a tweet today that was when a clip of Bryson that was hitting those like drivers, and he's like grunting and fucking doing his Bryson thing. And it's like Rory hitting range balls after he found out the prenup was no good. And he's just like ripping driver over and over again, just yelling and grunting.
Yeah, one meeting with his financial advisor probably put an Ixnay on his divorce. He's like, God, and then he's like, we got to do it for Poppy. We got to stick together for the kids. In all reality, he just doesn't want to cut somebody a check for $200 million or whatever the hell he's got in his bank account. But should we get into our favorite pairings this week? Because there is some good pairings.
Yeah, there's some great pairings out there. So they're all going out in threesomes. I won't so we'll get into the really, the talented pairings, if you will. But I found it interesting.
They're all talented, dipshit.
Well,
they're playing in the US Open.
Okay, do you know who Brian Kim, Jim Herman, and Isaiah Salinda are? Give me a fucking
Jim
break.
Herman's playing? I know who Jim Herman is.
Yeah, isn't he like 70 years old?
He's like in his mid to late 40s, but
whatever. He's old.
Dude's a baller. He's won multiple times on the PGA Tour.
Oh, here's a great one. Jason Scrivener, Brandon Robinson Thompson, and Brendan Valdez. Yeah, super talented there.
Okay, well, so real quick, actually, while we're talking about this, we got to give a shout out to Collin Prater. He played at UCCS's golf team. I remember that name. Very good player, but now he's a science teacher, and he qualified, got his way into the US Open. And I saw the USGA did like a cover piece on him, and he's rocking all pins and aces. So he's head to toe pins and aces. They must have hooked him up with some apparel. And I was like, damn, that's dope. So I'm glad, Pins and Aces is a Colorado-based company, so I'm glad they got the hometown guy out at Pinehurst rocking their stuff. But maybe we could try to get him on at some point. Maybe we shoot him a DM after, maybe see when his off period is after teaching science. Maybe we can do it on his lunch hour.
It's summer break, bro. He's off. He's just playing golf now. He's not worried about fucking Y equals MX plus B. That's math, but
that's not science. No shit. Well, I mean, maybe teachers have the low key inside track to being great golfers because they don't have anything to do all summer but play golf.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the schedule wise. When you live in a cold weather state or a state with all four seasons, not a better time to be a good golfer than obviously practicing all summer long when you're, have your break. But let's give a shout out to friend of the program as well, Mark Hubbard. He's teeing off number 10 at 12:41 Eastern time. Excuse me, with Chesson Hadley and Adam Svensson, which Adam Svensson was, I believe, second or third in the same qualifier as Mark was at the same golf course. So Canadian that qualified in Canada, and him and Mark are playing together. But I think my favorite pairing of, okay, I won't call them non-talented, but more of like the lower key, not
the non-premier pairings.
Yeah, non-premier pairing is so Gordon Sargent, the amateur, with Jake Knapp and Cameron Young. That's an
Oh my
electric
God.
pairing of just bombers. That
That
group
is
is going to be all over the
legitimately
fucking place.
they better have like 6 spotters following that group because the ball is going to be flying everywhere and it's going to be going fast. I mean, all of those dudes produce on a regular basis 190 plus ball speed. So I think the PGA Tour just needs to get an audio version of all of their tee shots throughout the day. And did you see that video of Minwoo Lee at the US Open? Like, he's swinging it crazy fast as well. And the audio on, like, there's something about when you have tree lined fairways and it feels like it kind of almost makes the audio stay within the area and it kind of almost echoes throughout it. It just sounds different. But yeah, that grouping is going to be phenomenal. Let's see a few other. Give me a few that you could watch. Like you said, non-premier groupings. By the way, you wanted to bet on Tom Hoagie this week, and we do have a blacklist. For those of you who are new to the program, we cannot bet on guys that are on our blacklist. So I had to remind Spencer of that last night because he wanted Tom Hoagie for some reason. But I'm looking through some of these other pairings.
Well,
Okay, here's a good one that I like. Byung Hun An.
Ben, you can just call him Ben.
Ben On. Okay, thank you. I forgot his first name was Ben.
Let's not do that on the show. We're welcoming of everyone.
He's
butcher
Ben
people's
On.
names.
That was not that bad in all honesty. But Ben On is actually one of the guys on the list that hits it the highest of anybody on the PGA Tour. So he could be a sneaky guy to look out for this week.
He was almost on my picks because he's like my wubby right now. Like Eric Cole was last year. Ben On's my wubby where I just like to pick him and he kind of like secretly top 10s almost every week.
What the fuck is a wubby?
It's something you like hold on to.
Like, oh, okay.
Like
what
back in the day? Okay, it's like something that makes you feel comfortable. This
like
is
your security blanket.
Where I heard the term wubby was like way back in the day when George Karl, the old Nuggets coach, would always play Andre Miller, even though they had Ty Lawson. And Andre Miller is George Karl's wubby. So I heard it there and I use it. It's just like my word.
I've legitimately never heard you say that word before in my life. And
well, I say it in my own mind then.
I've spent the better part of 30 years with you. But so Ben On is playing with Sam Bennett, who I don't know exactly how he's in the field, maybe still off of his US Amateur win. He still has an exemption. I'm not sure. But that kid's a baller. He's always like a big game hunter. I think was it last year? He was in the top 10 going into the weekend at the US Open. He was like in the hunt legitimately. And then you've got Eduardo Molinari, which he must have qualified over in Europe. But that's kind of a random, he's fun to watch. One of the Molinari brothers, like the Luigi brothers, Mario and Luigi, if you didn't get that quote. But he's a fun watch too. His coach he was one of the first guys, fun fact, he was one of the first guys to implement strokes gained. Him and his coach came up with this stat like 15 years ago before anybody was doing it. And now it is obviously universally used as one of the more telling analytics from the PGA Tour. Another one that's pretty good, Daniel Berger. He's kind of been off the scene for a bit. Daniel Berger, Ryan Fox, our guy that we just want to get buried at Pinehurst. If you know, you know. And David Puig, so former LIV Tour player, if I'm not mistaken. Man Bear Puig. He's also a bomber. He just won over on the GP World Tour recently. So that's going to be a good one. And then another one, Justin Rose, Gary Woodland, Webb Simpson, all former US Open winners. So that's actually a pretty fire pairing as well.
Yeah, I like that one.
Can you tell me real quick, trivia, can you tell me where Justin Rose, Gary Woodland, and Webb Simpson won their US Opens?
So Webb Simpson won his at Olympic Club.
Well
done. Gary Woodland and who's the other one?
Justin Rose.
Justin Rose. No, I don't have the other two. I just know Webby's the Olympic Club.
Gary Woodland won it at Pebble Beach.
Oh, okay. I was thinking one of them was a little Pebble action.
Yeah, Gary was at Pebble Beach, and then Justin Rose's was at Marion in Pennsylvania. I think that was like 10 or 11 years ago. Well, it couldn't have been 10 years ago because it was at Pinehurst 10 years ago. Speaking of Pinehurst 10 years ago, Martin Keimer has not won a single event worldwide since the U.S. Open 10 years ago.
Really? Well, that's where I
How
was gonna
insane is that?
I was gonna go with my next like kind of a cool pairing is Shane Lowry, Keegan Bradley, and Martin Keimer. So you've got three major winners together, but kind of guys that are, haven't competed a ton at majors recently. Let's put it that
Do you
way.
think Keegan Bradley hates Shane Lowry for all the Ryder Cup shit, even though he wasn't on the team? Like Keegan
No,
Bradley is like the dude who has no man in the fight, but he just wants to represent the US so much that I bet he low key wants to bury Shane Lowry and be like, I should have been on this fucking Ryder Cup team.
or Spin Zone. He's so pissed at the Ryder Cup team, even though he acted like he was a big team player, that he actually loved when Shane Lowry fucking took it to him. He's like, I can't be there to help out, so fuck you. And
Okay.
pick
You think you think he's the scorned lover? You think that's the role he's playing? He's like, why don't you go jump off a bridge, US Ryder Cup team? I mean, they already got shit on at the Ryder Cup, so I don't think he needs any more like vindication to know why he was there. But let's get into a few of the premier pairings because Justin Thomas, Collin Morikawa, Brooks Koepka, obviously going to be an electric one. Oh wait, another one a little off the beaten path that I like. Ryo Ishikawa. This dude has been on the professional golf scene for 15 plus years. He was winning on the European Tour when he was like 17 years old. I think he's now in his early 30s. So it's come full circle. He was on and off tour multiple times, but super, super talented dude. Ryo Ishikawa, Francesco Molinari, the other of Mario and Luigi, the Italian brothers, and then Sergio Garcia. So, I mean, that is, and talk about an international group. I think Ryo Ishikawa is from Japan, Francesco's from Italy, and Sergio's from Spain. So we got like a really good international group.
Yeah, there's a couple of so Jackson Suber is the name I was looking for earlier. He is playing in place of John Rahm. So you've got Hideki Matsuyama, Jordan Spieth, and Jackson Suber. So that guy's going to be getting some fucking TV time. Good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's probably pissed though, because he's gonna have to help. Gee, I just short circuited. He's gonna have to help Jordan Spieth look for his ball all fucking week. So he's like, God damn it, I better bring the bug spray. He's gonna be all in and out of the pine trees all weekend, Thursday and Friday at least. So
yeah, only Thursday, Friday for Spiethy boy.
yeah,
Bryson, Victor, and Max. That's an electric pairing. That's probably my favorite pairing of just, you got Bryson, who's a good watch, and then Victor and Max is like Max is just the guy that everybody loves, especially Americans. So that's probably the pairing that I'll be most dialed into. I mean, of course, you've got Rory, Scottie, and Xander. So three very that's the highlight pairing. I mean, anything with Scottie in it, but then you have Rory and Xander and Tommy Fleetwood. Tommy Fleetwood, with Tyrrell Hatton and Tom Hogue. So two Toms. Tyrrell only has to remember Tyrrell, Tom, and Tom. Tom, Tyrrell, Tom.
We've got Tony Finau, Ludwig Aubert, and Dustin Johnson.
That's going to be like three guys are 4 or 5 under, or two guys are 4 or 5 under, and Dustin Johnson's firing like 84. Like when you're in a group of players way better and more equipped than you, that's what we're going to get out of that group. Because Finau's like a guy low key that won't win this, but he'll be like in it.
That's like that dragon meme where it's like the two like serious dragons and then the one really dumb dragon. That's Dustin Johnson in that group. I was actually going to say this, and I want this as like a clippable moment if this does come to fruition. And I think low key we just say everybody's name in the field that could possibly win, so then we can clip it and say we were right. But I actually truly think this. I think Max Homa could win this week at the US Open. He's really good at playing conservative golf and letting the course come to him and picking his spots. I feel like he's not as good when you have to be super aggressive, make a bunch of birdies. I think he's really good at sticking around even par. He's a grinder. He'll grind out a lot of pars, and there's probably going to be some holes this week where bogey's a good score, you know, not making that big number. Bogey avoidance, double bogey avoidance is probably going to be big. So I actually think Max has an outside chance. You know, everybody doesn't look at him as that serious of a golfer because he's won the Fortnite championship a few times or whatever. But I actually think this could be a coming out party for him at the majors. I think he's due for one.
Yeah, I think he'll win one at some point, and this is kind of a course that not necessarily fit his game, but the U.S. Open style of play that take out last year fits his style of play. Like you just talked about, he can grind, he can keep it around even par. Like the tournaments where guys are 23, 24 under, that's not really, I mean, other than the Fortinet, but that's a whole different world that we're talking about. Well, let's hop into our official big bet energy picks for this 2024 U.S. Open, third major of the year. Here they are for you. Shout out to Bet365. Use that code ALLCITY in all caps when you sign up. Get those couple offers, either betting $5 to get 150 in bonus bets or $1,000 first bet safety net. I've got Bryson DeChambeau plus 1,400 on the each way 1 through 12, and that once again is boosted 50%. The good thing about me doing these graphics is that I get to take the boost away from Mitchell, so I always get the boost. And I actually, just so this is on the record as well, when we have a winner, I doubled my units because, the smart way to bet is always double your units when it's a big game. If you bet $5 a game on the Super Bowl, you got to bet 500. That's just how this works. That's how the gambling game goes. It's a major. You lay more money down. You get more into it. So I've got Bryson DeChambeau plus 1,400. Hideki Matsuyama, this guy made the card as of about 8 a.m. this morning. I was watching some clips. I just got talked into it. Saw him with his black Asics on, hitting iron shots. Just couldn't help myself. Since I wasn't allowed Tom Hoagie on the blacklist, I'm going Hideki Matsuyama at plus 2,500. And then Cam Smith, I'm going to go 2 LIV guys and 1 PGA Tour player. Cam Smith's plus 2,800. Once again, I watched the walk and talk with him and Johnson Wagner yesterday. A guy that also, he's won an Open championship. He's been in a lot of Masters. Like, he does play and does come to play for the majors, and his short game and putting is just otherworldly. So I think the putter is going to help him a ton this week. And he's a guy that he doesn't really he's just cool Australian dude, just doesn't get worked up by the moment and the big moment of these majors. So I'm going to go Cam Smith each way 1 through 12 plus 3,500. 2,800,
okay.
Excuse me.
I like that. And real quick, I'm on the Bet365 app right now, and they've got some great boosted 3-leg parlays. Like, they have boosted 3-leg parlay for Xander, Collin, and Brooks to all finish inside of the top 10. They've got it plus 2,065. So, you bet $10, you win 200 on 3 dudes playing some of the best golf in the world right now, top 10ing. That's not too bad. And then they have another one. They have top 20 finishers. They have Shane Lowry, Tommy Fleetwood, and Matt Fitzpatrick boosted to plus 1987. So 1,987. So you bet $10,
I think I'm
you win
log
100
and knock that out right now.
I know some of these boosted parlays look pretty tasty. They also have top 10 finish Scottie Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Bryson DeChambeau plus 979, which is also a very good parlay to boost. So I do like those, but Marissa, if you could pull up the betting card once again, I am going to get into my picks quickly. So I've got Brooksy. We can't leave him off the card at a major. He's too good not to be in contention. He was pissed off about how he finished at the Masters. Didn't play that well at the PGA either. So I think we're going to see him make a big comeback this week at the U.S. Open. Keegan Bradley, we talked about him. He played well here a couple years ago. Or 10 years ago, not a couple, but one of the highest ball flights on the PGA Tour. So I think that's going to be a good under the radar pick, and plus 4,000 each way 1 through 12. That's pretty damn good. And then I've got Sungjae Im, just because he seems like that guy. I'm going to be dead ass honest. This was just a vibes pick for me. I was drunk texting Spencer last night, and I was like, who else did I have on the card, Spencer? Who did I want?
Victor, and I said, are you going to waste your money on Victor Hovland again?
That's who it was.
I fucking worked him right out of it.
You worked me right out of it, and Sungjae Im was just in my mind. He's got Will Wilcox on the bag, and I think these dudes could get it done this week. He's also a grinder, makes a lot of clutch putts. He feels like he's on the leaderboard every weekend. So I got Sungjae in plus 4,500 to round out my betting card.
Love that. Well, I am placing that bet right now, plus 1987. Shane Lowry, Tommy Fleetwood, Matt Fitzpatrick. Those are all three of my guys. So I will take that. I mean, you don't have to have Tommy Fleetwood win it, so I'm comfortable with that scenario. Or Shane Lowry. And Fitzpatrick's won a U.S. Open, played up and down last week because he was on the card, so I was paying close attention, but still ended up being top 5. So enjoy the U.S. Open. Catch us live, YouTube, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Friday afternoon, we're going to call it the Glizzy on the Turn. We're going to get through half of the U.S. Open, join you all on the YouTube, talk about what we've seen, the maybe carnage at Pinehurst with the greens, guys playing ping pong, I believe is what Tiger Woods called it. So, and we'll see how Tiger does. We actually made it through a whole show. I mean, not like we're big Tiger stands, but we made it through a whole major show without talking about Tiger Woods. So
give a prediction. Give a Tiger Woods prediction quickly.
I bet he's like in it to make the cut, but if the cut's like 3 or 4 over, I bet he is like right. I bet he shoots 5 over and misses the cut. 5 over 2 days, misses the cut. He'll be in it, but not like competing.
I think he's going to fire over 80 one of these days. I think he's going to be like plus 12 after. Yeah, I think he'll fire one round, a few over, but I think maybe he'll come out tomorrow and just lay a fucking egg, shoot like 82.
Okay. Hot, not really a hot take, but he's got his son Charlie there hanging out. I mean, you never know.
Just all-time vibes.
All-time vibes guy, playing with all his boys in the practice round. We'll see. All-time vibes this weekend for the U.S. Open. Father's Day Sunday. We will talk to you guys on Friday. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up for us. Please give us a subscription. Subscribe to the Big Drive Energy YouTube so you don't miss any of our live shows throughout the week. We will talk to you on Friday. Enjoy full coverage of the U.S. Open the next 2 days. Make sure you have Peacock. We're out. Peace.
Peace.